Welcome. My name is Artie Jones, and I serve as the Executive Director of Clearly College Park, the Business and Industrial Development Authority for the City of College Park. And I'd like to welcome to the show today Mr. Mill Graves, who serves as the Economic Development Director with Electric Cities, Georgia.
Good morning, Artie.
Good morning, Mill. Thank you for coming on the show this morning and talking to us about development within the City of College Park in the South Metro area. Could you please provide for our audience kind of a synopsis of what you're responsible for with ECG, Electric Cities, Georgia?
A little bit about who I am. I'm the director of Electric Cities of Georgia. We're a statewide organization, a nonprofit, and really an extension of the 52 municipal power cities across the state of Georgia. We're one of 3 utilities in the state. So a lot of people are very familiar with Georgia Power. If you're in rural areas, the co-ops, EMCs, and then you have the municipals. And College Park's one of those municipals, as well as their neighbor East Point, Fairburn, Marietta, to name a few. So there's 52 across the state. And really what we are is the service arm of these cities. We do statewide economic development as it relates to industrial business recruitment. And so when I say that, essentially as a utility, the Georgia Department of Economic Development partners with each utility on projects. So when a project is coming to Georgia, they are either working with Georgia Power, they're working with us at ECG and our team, or they're working with the EMCs to basically do site selection and help those businesses identify a market to expand or grow in. And so really that's a big bulk of what we do. And then the other half of that is our team is here as a resource for those 52 cities across the state.
So tell me this. We're going to go back in history a little bit. I want to know a little bit about your family, kind of how where did you matriculate? Tell me, how did you end up here? When you were a little boy on the playground in school, did you say one day, okay, I'm going to be in economic development? Did that happen, or how did this come to pass?
Yeah, I'm not sure how anybody really falls into economic development. It's one of those things that you kind of say, hey, I'm in economic development. A lot of people say, well, what's that? I haven't heard of that before. And then you start telling them kind of, some of the projects we might work on, or, if you heard about the Amazon HQ2 project, right? Where they were going, that's economic development. And people kind of, okay, I get it. And I'll have to say, I never thought that I would fall into this field. I think a lot of people just kind of fall into it. But long story short, quickly, I'm from Kentucky originally. I've lived in a lot of different states. I chose to go to college in North Carolina. I swam at Davidson College. Okay. I was there when Steph Curry was there. He's probably our most famous alumni. And then I moved out west for a little bit, lived in Wyoming for 3 years. And really, I think living in all those different environments, both urban and rural, kind of exposed me to kind of just, how do cities grow? Why do we need affordable housing in certain places? How does the environment impact? So basically, I decided, hey, I really want to learn more about this urban ecosystem. And so I decided to go get a master's in city and regional planning, not really knowing what I would kind of get involved in after that, right? Maybe I'll go work for a city as a planner. But essentially, I had some experiences working for the city of Charleston, worked for a regional nonprofit that kind of helped elected officials and basically planners in the upstate of South Carolina kind of make best practice decisions. And really that kind of got me thinking about, well, how can you really impact, a lot of communities and decision makers and people such as yourself, Artie, economic developers, people that actually work in these projects. How can you provide them with the best resources to kind of help them do their job and provide those best practices? And, ECG kind of just popped up. I had some contacts here in Atlanta that kind of said, hey, you really should explore this economic development route. And ECG was that platform to kind of allow me to work statewide, but not really focus on, one specific sector. It wasn't just retail or downtown or industrial recruitment. It was really thinking about how do these cities grow comprehensively, right? And how can the decision makers and the people that are doing the day-to-day job of making sure that the city is growing in a sustainable, proactive way, how do they have the tools and the resources to do that? And so really, that was kind of what attracted me to ECG and getting into that role. And I started out in the retail commercial kind of sector, working mainly in downtown and working with some of the big boxes,
Right.
Primarily working with developers and identifying sites and providing them with market data, marketing the cities that we work with. And it's kind of evolved now, and I'm working in the director post, which allows me to kind of touch everything, which is really great.
So how long have you been with ECG now?
So I've been with ECG for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years this fall, and it's been a great ride. I think the best part of it is that there is some turnover in the economic development world, as well as elected officials, turnover, and but for the main part, a lot of the same people are still around, right? And so we've developed. This is a relationship business, and so I've developed some strong relationships over these years, which just makes the job more fun. And every day is a new adventure, and we get to do this together, right? And so it's part of that, which is really fun.
You've recently had a new addition to your family, correct?
Yes, I have. Yeah. So about 4 months ago, my wife and I welcomed a baby girl.
Okay.
And so we had a dog. We included him as a child before her, and now he's kind of taking a back seat, I guess. But poor guy. But yeah, no, baby girl. Her name is Penn, and we love her to death. She's been the best thing in the world for us, and we look forward to all the adventures that have to come down the road with that. So it's been a fun ride so far.
Well, now we know a little bit about your background. Getting back to economic development, as an economic development practitioner, it is our responsibility to recruit, retain, and help businesses expand, create a bigger tax base, in most cases, create jobs that, in some cases, and we would like to do it in more cases, that provide a living wage. In the South Metro area, as far as the cities that you work within, what are you seeing? What trends are you seeing right now? What should South Metro cities try to take advantage of right now, given the state of the economy?
Yeah, I think your all's marketing and everything with Aerotropolis that's been going on, and the fact that the airport's right here, you guys do a really good job of saying you're situated well, right? It's the perfect location. You're close to everything, and I think that you've got a lot of infrastructure that exists, like MARTA. You've got 285. You've got 85. You've got proximity to the Beltline, and you're building within Aerotropolis your own greenway, right? So all these things make you connected, and I think that is your biggest asset. And it's probably one of the few areas within the perimeter that has undevelopable land. I mean, there's opportunity. There's infill opportunity, right, for people to move here, for different residential opportunities, retail, commercial, and industrial. There's been a huge success along the 85 corridor, and specifically around the airport with respect to distribution and logistics. So industries that are related to that are definitely taking note of this opportunity and seeing those benefits of locating in this part of the metro. I've always said that this part of Metro Atlanta is about as far away from downtown Atlanta as Decatur is, right? If you think about what Decatur's kind of become, that's kind of the opportunity I see for this area, but with a much more diverse tax base. There's just a lot more opportunity to develop office and logistics and distribution that part of the city doesn't have. So you guys have a true potential here to capitalize on with respect to all that.
You've mentioned the Aerotropolis Alliance in your comments. Tell me, I've worked with several communities throughout the state of Georgia. In most cases, the communities they worked within silos. Whenever they were trying to reach out to project managers for the state, you had 150 cities, shotgun reaching out to the state. The state's kind of inundated with too much information, and usually the state project managers go with who they know, and they go with the communities that they feel are going to be able to get the job done, to be able to land that project. Tell me, how important is it to have one voice as far as regionally and being able to work together like an aerotropolis of several cities and communities, county included?
I think it's extremely beneficial. You touched a little bit on the process, as far as some of how this works. There's 159 counties in the state of Georgia, right? And, I don't know the exact number of state project managers there are, but if you think about all of those counties vying for attention and marketing their product, you're correct in the fact that a lot of them do market themselves in silos, right? And it's a lot harder to do financially to do that, but it's also, you kind of get lost in the crowd, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think regionalism is kind of emerging as a really great opportunity for a lot of reasons, but also to get the attention and to collaborate, whether it's cities or counties or whatever it might be, collaborate and maximize the resources that are there and tell the story that is beyond your city limits, beyond those lines, right? We always talk about workforce as the number one issue. And that's not just Georgia, it's not rural areas, it's not urban, it's across the country. Every prospect that we work with is saying that workforce is the issue. But and you know full well, and people that work at the airport know full well, that your workforce doesn't stop at your city limits. People are coming from all over the metro to this area every day, right? Mm-hmm. And so telling that story of that opportunity and collaborating together is an important part of getting yourself on the map as far as saying, hey, there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think in addition to that, it just shows partnership. I think a lot of these prospects want to see that cities can collaborate together, that they're not fighting against each other, that counties and cities are working with one another. And so if that story is being told on a regional level in the way that you guys are doing it with Aerotropolis, then I think that shows very well for people that not only want to invest in business, but also want to move here. Because I think this is something that kind of gets overlooked a lot. People a lot of times focus on, let's just recruit the business, right? Mm-hmm. When in reality, a lot of times the business is following the workforce. So a good thing to do is to kind of focus on, well, how can we attract people? How can we get people to move to our cities? And so, and I know Aerotropolis is doing this. You all are doing this. East Point's doing this. You're focusing on quality of life. You're focusing on housing. You're focusing on downtown, streetscapes, places that feel safe, that feel comfortable, destinations. Mm-hmm. Collectively, you guys are doing that as a region, and you're thinking about it collaboratively. And I think a great example of that is the Beltway that you guys are planning on doing with Aerotropolis, which will then tie in with what's going on with the Beltline and all that. So once again, that's just a piece of the puzzle that if you're a potential business, or if you're somebody that wants to or that already works in the area and wants to move here, then those are the things you're going to be looking at, as far as quality of life.
Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta National Airport, 104 million passengers per year. Approximately 285,000 people per day go through the airport. You talked about connectivity as being one of our, College Park and the South Metro areas, one of our, a great opportunity for us to build upon. When I worked for smaller communities throughout the state that did not have public transit, whenever I talked about workforce, I would have to use the population of the city that I was in because there was no public transport. Here in the city of College Park, since we have two MARTA stations, mm-hmm. one at Hartsfield-Jackson, one at downtown College Park, I say that Atlanta is my workforce, and because of its connectivity, you can be in downtown Atlanta by MARTA within 12 to 13 minutes. Yeah. Tell me exactly how should the South Metro area be marketing themselves when you talk about connectivity and workforce? I know that workforce is key. I've had businesses that leave communities that I've worked in because the workforce wasn't mm-hmm. available.
I think the biggest thing that you guys have, like the existing infrastructure, is what you have to take advantage of. That's your workforce, and showing that market as far as, you reach up as far up 400 as it goes, all the way almost to Gwinnett County up to Doraville. That's an easy, somebody who lives in Gwinnett County can easily drive and park in Doraville and get on the metro and come straight to College Park and get out and walk downtown. And that's a huge asset, and that's something that needs to be sold. But it's also, I think that this region needs to start looking at, and you are doing it, but between East Point and College Park, Hateville, all these communities, whether it's rapid bus transit, or MARTA, looking at land use strategies that really try to identify housing opportunities to try to get people to move here and densify some of these areas, and create that kind of opportunity where you're not only attracting people to move here to actually live in your community, but showing that connectivity throughout to attract that workforce from beyond as well.
When you think about Class A office, which all communities are kind of vying for, you've really not seen a great deal of Class A office in the South Metro area. Most of that has been up in your Sandy Springs, your
Right.
Cobb Counties, Marietas,
Right.
those type of areas. Now, College Park is building Class A office. We built a Class A office building, 250,000 square feet, about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
We've built the second Class A office building that was just occupied 3 months ago, and we're looking at, within the Airport City project area, building approximately 3 million square feet of Class A office. Do you think this area is ready to continue to capitalize on Class A office and corporate headquarters?
I think it is. Too often we get office prospects that immediately want to look in Midtown or up in Sandy Springs, or go to Gwinnett, and quite frankly, the rents are very high, and so not to mention, it's crowded up there. The traffic's pretty bad. This pocket down here in southwest Atlanta really creates an opportunity to open up an entire new portion of the metro region to attract office, right? The people that live down South 85, that even live up 75, for example, could easily access this area. And not to mention that you've got the busiest airport in the world. That is a huge asset for any prospect that we ever have. Everybody's trying to get as close to Hartsfield as possible. And so if you're talking about doing business nationally and internationally, what better place to be than right here, right? Mm-hmm. So for your clients to come in, for you to go and travel across the country or travel across the world to do business, what better place to be than have that airport right in your backyard, right?
Right.
So I think that's a huge asset for office that comes into the market. That's they're looking at Midtown and Sandy Springs specifically, but those places are getting crowded and they're getting very expensive.
Right. Well, a lot of our viewers that are not economic development people may not understand why Class A office is important. I look at Class A office as providing, creating white-collar jobs. White-collar jobs, in most cases, pay more than a lot of your other jobs. If you have the higher-paying jobs in an area, then you're able to get the, bigger homes,
right.
more expensive homes.
Right.
When you get that, you get more retail.
Correct.
And you get more restaurants and a higher quality of life and a bigger tax base. So the Class A office is not just to build a cool building and to have it in your community, but it's actually to create jobs. And I'm not talking about you would just, move a company into your community and no jobs would be created, but there will be a great deal of jobs created. In most cases, when you grow up in a small town, what you want to do is you grow up, you graduate, and you want to move away because you have to find a job somewhere else. But how great would it be to have Class A offices and corporate headquarters here in the city of College Park,
right in your hometown,
where those jobs are?
No, I think you touched on something great. I know that you and I, we've been working on this for years as far as trying to market this area and the retail opportunity, right? And the one thing that retailers look for, and as retail is evolving into, destination retail and experiential retail and restaurants, right? Looking at those extra dollars that people have to spend on those things, those types of jobs, those Class A office jobs, those headquarters jobs, would really elevate the area and track those kind of opportunities and really kind of diversify the base in a lot of ways, the tax base, and kind of create College Park as a destination, right? And so I think that yeah, you have to look at it. You have to look at it just beyond, hey, this is a great place for Class A office, but it's a long-term strategy for building wealth in your community and diversifying your tax base and creating a vibrant downtown with restaurants and retail, and housing and all sorts of price ranges. So yeah, I think you're correct in that.
Well, I know that you've been in economic development during the recession. It was a tough time for economic development.
That was a
people
fun one.
From 2013 till 2006 to 2013 in there. So, what are your biggest fears right now, given the state of the economy and where we are? What's going on nationally with us and other countries? What do you fear most about a lot of the development that's currently underway and with the state of the economy right now?
Yeah, so you touched on a lot of stuff, and one thing that I kind of mentioned earlier is the fact that we work with urban cities and we also work with rural cities, and so, but everybody's kind of facing this big issue of what's going on with the economy with respect to, if these trade wars continue. We've got a lot of political turmoil, and a lot of long-term, vision for this is that it's going to be short, right? Hopefully that's short, and the economic strategies will continue. But as far as that goes, I think my biggest concern is the fact that communities really need to focus on what are the fundamentals, right, with respect to surviving a recession if it happens again. And, we came out of the recession in 2013. That's about when I started working at ECG, right? And I had a lot of communities saying, well, we have all this vacant big box. We're not seeing any activity with respect to industrial recruitment. And so we spent a lot of time saying, well, here are some things that we need to focus on with respect to best practices. And what it comes down to, I think, is focusing on housing, and it's focusing on quality of life elements that could potentially weather a recession. So if you have a diversity of housing in all price ranges, multifamily, allow duplexes, multiplexes, things of that nature. Think about incremental development with respect to housing and having a diversity of that. I think those are things that help. I think that focusing on, small business, entrepreneurship, things that aren't going to be as affected by the macro economy but rely more on your local economy. I think those are things that if a community focuses on those, then they're more likely going to be able to weather some of the bigger macro things that are happening in our economic kind of, tumultuous time, specifically politically. But I do think that the political stuff is short term. What we're hearing from a lot of consultants, and I think a lot of consultants want business, so they say, oh, this is really going to affect us. But I think that companies, specifically companies that have been around the block a time or two, weathered a few recessions, have been here, know that these things come in cycles, and we can weather this and we'll be fine, and our 5-year outlook still remains positive.
Usually one of the questions that I ask viewers, or I should say people being interviewed on this show, what keeps you up at night? But the thing that keeps me up at night, given the current state of the economy and where we are in the development cycle, is that I really hope that I can get these projects up and going before the economy starts to decline. So what advice would you have, being a practitioner in economic development, to what would you suggest? What type of stance should College Park take in other smaller communities?
I think, if anything, and that keeps me up at night too, with a lot of the prospects we have, given the cycle we're in right now. We work a lot of multifamily stuff. We work a lot of retail commercial stuff, and we're kind of at a cycle with both of those that if it's not financed right now and it's not thinking about coming out of the ground, it might not be viable, just given where we are in the cycle. And so I think more than anything, what communities can do is focus on public-private partnership, really working with prospects to figure out what those gaps are, to get deals done, and to figure out what keeps them up at night, right? What are the things that they need to figure out to get things done and to make decisions on their end, right? And so I think being willing to meet in the middle and talk about the issues, kind of the needs, and finding a balance for that is a big part of getting things across the finish line, particularly when there is a recession maybe coming or during the economic hard times. And so I think public-private partnership is going to be a big piece of that.
It's funny that you would bring up public-private partnerships, because that's exactly what the city of College Park did. During the recession, I was working in another community, and there was we were trying to get a hotel out of the ground. And I would say for 4 years, there was like no one was building hotels.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, here in the city of College Park, during the recession, they weren't building one hotel, but they were actually building 2 hotels at the convention center. And it was because of a public-private partnership, and it was because of clearly College Park, the development authority, worked closely with the developers. And it was, by the time we came out of the recession, College Park was already, on the road, on the move. So I think that public-private partnerships are very, very, very important. But I think that you have to have the right team also when you look at a public-private partnership. You have to have, a savvy financial advisor. You need to have someone that's an expert, with the particular product that you're trying to develop.
Yeah.
You have to have someone that, you have to have a good developer. You can't take all developers at their face value. in most cases.
We know that well from experience. So
yeah. So it's very important, I think, that whenever you engage in a public-private partnership, that it is truly a partnership, and
Agreed.
It's not a you win, I lose, type scenario.
I would add to that as well, knowledgeable leadership. Mm-hmm. Knowledgeable elected, the people that are on your board, for example, and the elected officials of College Park who are knowledgeable, primarily probably because a lot of what you do in educating them kind of some of the trends and what needs to be done with respect to getting some of these deals done. But I think that's an important piece of the puzzle as well. But you're right, it's got to be a win-win for everybody.
And one final question for you before we wrap up. To our viewers, what would you like to leave with our viewers that are watching our podcast? What great information can you say, or what great things can you say about me? No, what great stuff can you say about the city of College Park if you're thinking of possibly looking at opportunities here?
I really think that, first off, Artie, you've got an incredible team, and it's been a pleasure to work with you these years. I know that everybody on my team loves working with you guys, and you guys, you've got a comprehensive approach to economic development. A holistic approach, which I think a lot of communities miss. You guys are looking at this thing full spectrum. So you're focused on housing, you're focused on downtown, you're focused on industrial and office, and you market yourself with a consistent message, which is very important, especially for us at the state level, to understand what's going on with you guys, what's your story, how are you telling it. And you not only do all those things right, but you have people in place to focus on each of those things, right? Mm-hmm. That are doing those jobs every day. So somebody's focused on downtown. Somebody's focused on the development authority. Somebody's focused on, the relationship with Aerotropolis and telling that story. And I think that all those things together make it an effective economic development strategy. If you guys focus on all those things holistically, I think that's going to serve you right in the long term. You got a great location, and that's your biggest asset.
Yes.
The good thing is you guys have the people in place and the plan and the strategy. That's another thing that I mentioned. You guys have strategically planned a lot of this stuff as well. So this hasn't happened overnight.
Right.
Just as we all know, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. But you guys have deliberately and purposefully thought about this and implemented a plan, right? And it's coming to fruition now. So
yeah,
kudos to you on that.
Well, thank you. You know that old saying is failure to plan is a plan to fail.
That's correct, yeah.
So I have no shame in my game. I will measure 3 or 4 times before cutting once. I like to take a very measured risk. But at the same time, to, you have to be an optimist in this type of job. If you're a person that needs instant gratification, economic development is probably not the field for you. So
this is true.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mill, for coming and meeting with me today and talking about economic development opportunities in the city of College Park and the South Metro area. And I'd also like to thank our audience for tuning in today. With Clearly College Park, where you will land in plain sight. I'd like to thank the Electric Cities Georgia for all the support that they provide to the city of College Park over the years and currently right now. And we look forward to a continued relationship. And if you are a developer or someone that's interested in locating in a city with the busiest airport in the world, please visit Clearly College Park, where you will land in plain sight. Thank you.